As Donald Trump and the FCC once again try to take out Jimmy Kimmel for his politically incorrect jokes, I just want everyone to remember that the first actual casualty in this Trump regime war on comedy and news was actually Stephen Colbert. Everybody forgets because it was announced last year. His show was canceled for purely political reasons. It's gonna be gone in less than a month. And Colbert did an interview recently with the New York Times about the impending cancellation of the show. And he hasn't said much about what BS this is, but he's getting closer to acknowledging exactly what it is that happened. I feel like he's on the cusp of it. So he was asked, it's been 9 months since you learned that you were canceled. CBS obviously claims that the show is canceled for financial reasons. Others are skeptical. And Stephen Colbert says, I do not dispute their rationale. I do make jokes about it, but I also completely understand why people would say, A, that doesn't make sense to me, and B, that seems fishy to me because the network did it to themselves by bending the knee to the Trump administration over a $20 billion, which was then settled for $16 million, completely frivolous lawsuit, which is true, they did that. He goes on to say it's possible that two things can be true. Broadcasts can be in trouble. They cannot monetize because of things like YouTube, because of the competition of streaming. They've got the books, and I do not have any desire to debate them over what they say their business model is and how it does not work for them anymore. But less than 2 years before they called to say it's over, they were very eager for me to be signed for a long time. So something changed. And look, stuff changes in 2 years, but we were already many years into late night TV not monetizing as well as it was. It is a great and I think devastating point. They wanted him for the long term just 2 years ago. 2 years ago was also conveniently before Donald Trump was back in office, wasn't it? And again, Colbert is being like diplomatic. He doesn't want to burn bridges with CBS or whatever, either for himself or maybe he just wants to keep his crew, the hundreds of people that work on that show employed for another month or whatever. But he seems to be getting closer to acknowledging that this was explicitly political. A couple more questions. He was asked, you say that you understand if people make the assumption the cancellation was fishy, but where have you settled out on this? And he says, I believe two things can be true. I'm not saying the two things are true. It behooves me not, it ain't behoovy for me to spend a lot of time thinking about that. Question, why do you think the FCC and the Trump administration are so focused on you? And this is really where I care about this. He says, authoritarians don't like anybody who doesn't give them undue dignity. Comedians are anti-authoritarian by nature, and authoritarians are never gonna like anybody to laugh at them. The number of news people who have said to me or Jon Stewart or any of the guys who do this, God, I wish I could say what you say on air, and we can. I think that upsets them. And I believe that that is totally the case. He goes on to say, by the way, I don't have any problem with Trump being a Republican. I have a problem with Trump being a complete narcissist who's only working for his own interest and does not appear to care if the entire world burns. That's not a partisan position. I have eyeballs and ears, and I think calling late night partisan is just roughing the ref. And he points out that they make jokes about the Democrats as well. It just, Trump getting more jokes about him doesn't mean that they're being unfair, because reality isn't 50-50. Trump is not as terrible as all other politicians are. They're not all equally terrible. He is the worst. I should not have to explain that. Stephen Colbert should not have to explain that. If you are paying attention, if you have eyes that work, ears that hear, a brain that functions, so we're ruling out people like John Fetterman, then you already know that he is the worst and he deserves more mockery. And so that's what he's been given. It is only his due. Sharon, what do you think?
Yeah, and the thing about a class clown, which comedians start out as, when you point things out and they know that they've gotten to you, it just makes it 10 times worse, okay? You didn't hear Bill Clinton coming out complaining when they made joke after joke about him running in those short shorts and his milky white thighs. You didn't hear him saying anything because they would have just gone and doubled down on it. Regular people and regular presidents get their feelings hurt. Okay, and they may storm around the White House a little bit and complain to their top aides. I'm sure Obama did in the tan suit and this and that. But people like Trump are narcissists. They can't stand for it. And as you said, comedians are anarchists and we need them more than ever. They should actually be a protected class while he's in office because they're the ones that are gonna keep throwing stones, telling the truth, and not hiding their hands, actually.